We are go for liftoff in T-minus 30.
Hit the record button.
Gosh, that's swell.
It's a Lowe's Blog Talk Radio.
Hello, everybody. This is Italo, once again, doing what I do best. And I welcome my guest today is Michael Shapiro. How you doing today?
How's it going? Doing well. How are you doing?
Great. Just
all things considered.
Fine. Oh yeah. All things considered, I'm doing great actually. But yeah, it's been, hey, this is what it is. Everybody's going through it. But we're here because Michael, who I met it wasn't last year, was it? That you did Bully Problem?
I think we met at the Fringe last year in the ramp up to the actual launch of the Fringe. So the weeks before, as there were all these social events for Fringe creators, I think we ran into each other at some point during the prior spring.
So it was last year. I wasn't sure because we're part of the Hollywood Fringe Festival, and we were talking about. Well, at the time you were doing the Bully Problem, which I happened to have seen. That was actually my second show I saw last year, and was it the first one? No, I think it was the first one because I was really, and I'm not really big into musicals, but I thought, for being a musical, it was really entertaining, and obviously. He won the Encore Producer Awards, and he had a lot of praise. And I think he was extended. So, right? I think he won a lot of things last year. A lot of awards.
Yeah,
we had Fringe, right?
We were nominated for a lot, and we won a few things, of which we were very proud. We did get the Encore Producers Award. We were a pick of the Fringe selection, and there was a few other accommodations along the way. We were nominated for all the big categories, though we didn't win any of them. We were among the highest tier of the people who didn't win awards. We didn't win the most prestigious awards there were to not win. So it was a very exciting award ceremony.
But I think he was still really good. And you should be proud because it was a great show. But yeah, the award show is of course the culmination of everything, and it gives you a little bit of validation. But at least the nomination, you have all these nominations and praise for the show. And this time around, well, maybe not this time around, but by this time we would actually be preparing for the opening of the Fringe. Because it's, what's today, May 15? Anyways, I don't even know what day it is. But the point is, by this point we would have been rehearsed. We would have had the tech rehearsal. We would have all this, meetings and all this stuff. But, of course, coronavirus had a different idea for us, and so that didn't happen. But, hey, that's where we're at. But I'm glad that you're continuing to produce and to come up with new ideas. And this time around, can you tell us the name of the show? Because I have a problem with pronunciation, especially this one in particular. So why don't you tell us about the new project you had in mind?
Sure. Well, the show's title, for those of you who haven't encountered it yet, has an unfamiliar and made-up word. So I think that's what throws people for a loop. The title of the show is Gideon and the Blundersnorp, and a Blundersnorp is a imaginary monster. So thus the unfamiliar word.
Yeah, that's why I was having a problem. I'm like, Blundersnorp. Oh my God, what is that?
Made-up words can either work in your favor because they're memorable, or they can completely backfire because they're strange. So I'm gambling heavily that this will be memorable.
So what is a Blundersnorp?
A Blundersnorp is a very large and hungry monster. And that's about as much as I've defined it, because one of the qualities that is integral to this show is that the monster can be left to the imagination of whoever's producing it. Like my show last year, the ambition is for this to go to educational markets and for schools to be able to perform it. And I didn't really want to encumber the story with a very specific visual, because obviously not every theater company has the same resources and imaginations differ, and people may have completely different concepts. So in the script, it actually goes out of its way not to define what the monster looks like, and even permits the monster just to be sound design. You know, it's okay to produce the show where the monster is just heard and never seen. And we have an alternate bit of dialogue that allows a narrator to just describe what the monster is like in abstract terms. So that's as much as I need to say at the moment. It's big, it's angry, and it's out to eat our heroes, and that's kind of all we need.
Right. So our heroes are a stable boy who wants to be a knight, a noblewoman who wants her freedom, and of course, Blundersnorp is the monster who wants to eat them both. That's the premise of the show. That was going to be premiere at the Broadwater, if I'm not mistaken. I don't know if you still have plans to have it there, or has that changed, or?
Well, in the event that we're all hoping for, if the Hollywood Fringe Festival does manifest in October, the thing we're all crossing our fingers for, then we were offered the opportunity to essentially move our schedule from June to October intact. So we would keep the same venue, which is the Broadwater main stage, and we would even keep the same dates and times. They would just be transposed to a different month. Now, there's, of course, a huge caveat in that we don't know what will be legally possible. We don't know what will be advisable in terms of public health. So we've essentially sketched out a best-case scenario, and now we're going to wait and see how closely to that we can approximate.
Yeah, because I had the same, probably had the same communications with studio stage. It was going to be my my theater, the theater I was going to go with, and so I'm still debating because I don't know. I don't know if people are ready to go back into the theater in October, and I might be a little bit pessimistic, and I'm trying not to be, but the way this is going, I don't see people gathering within inches of each other instead of 6 feet of each other without a mask to go into a theater. I don't know. I don't know what are your thoughts, but yeah, I don't know. Nobody knows, right?
Well, I think you've put your finger on it. I think one of the toughest things to say is I don't know. And the more we care about the outcome, the harder it is just to accept uncertainty. Because, we don't like the tension of not knowing. We either want to say, we either want to give up, so that way we head off disappointment to the past. We kind of cauterize our hopes just so we can never be disappointed, or we can flip the other direction and be overly optimistic. And both of those approaches relieve a little bit of tension of uncertainty. But I'm a firm believer in saying, I don't know. I'm going to plan for several scenarios and just going to wait and see. And of course, I have a preference. Does this scenario that you rather be true? But there just isn't enough information to make an educated guess at this point. So not much to do, but to bide our time.
Meanwhile, are you still doing the rehearsals, or how is that coming along? Because I've seen one of the actors, an actress, go on the Cabaret, and that was one of the shows that was featured in the Cabaret. Which, by the way, whoever's listening, I'm gonna probably put a link below to the newest. No, I don't think it was the newest, but it was the latest one I saw that features different shows, and there's a song there from Gideon, and I don't know if that's the actual number that you had already, pre-recorded or pre-rehearsing. Is that what it is, or is that something else?
Well, at the time of the big pause, where everything went on hiatus, the show Gideon the Blundersnorp was, I would say, 90% done. The music was mostly written, the story was in pretty good shape, and I had already started recording some demos for the cast. We didn't have a cast yet. We were just assembling members of the creative team, our initial choice of director. We had gotten someone to design the monster, which is really cool. And we were doing some demo recording. So when the first Fringe Cabaret, the virtual cabaret, rolled around, and the benefit of those of you listening who don't know what this is a really ingenious idea of simply taking material from the hopefully forthcoming Fringe Festival and exhibiting it on a virtual stage, just doing it over, I think we did it on Zoom. I don't know why I'm saying we. I didn't really do any work. It was either Zoom or YouTube, but it was a display of videos of performers who had self-recorded in their homes some kind of excerpt of material. And in our case, I had Ali Costa, who is a
Hello, Michael.
Is that? Yeah.
I'm sorry, Michael. We lost connection for a second. Can you say that again?
Sure. What was the last thing you heard?
I heard up to the point where that you were recording and the channel, and I think it went off for a second. Well, a few seconds. I can't recall.
No worries. Well, to make a long story short, I asked Ali Costa, who is a tremendously talented performer, to self-record one of the songs that she had demoed a couple of weeks before. And she knew the song, so it was an easy idea. And she recorded herself performing that tune, and it was featured in the first of the Hollywood Fringe virtual cabarets. So if you go to watch the video, you'll see a number of different acts perform, and one of them is one of the songs from our show, very generously recorded by Ali in her living room.
Right. I saw that. Yeah, actually, it sounds great. She's got a good voice. I was really impressed with her performance. But
she has a tremendous sound, and she was in our show last year, The Bully Problem. So she's also got a great can-do attitude. So when I need someone to tirelessly record demos, she was one of the first people I reached out to.
Right. So you have the same cast from last year, or do you change? How many of your previous cast members are in this show?
It's kind of TBD. The cast hasn't really been settled yet. We are obviously going to encourage everyone we worked with last year to come and audition and get in touch if they're interested, because we love all those people and they're great. But we also have a new director. We're likely to have a new director, so I'd like to let the director have some autonomy in the casting process. So rather than say, hey, everybody come on back, we need to go through a little bit of the formality of auditioning. So I wouldn't be surprised if there are some familiar faces, but at the moment, everything's in flux.
Okay. Great. So in your experience, going from before the virus and after the virus, or before this all happened and now we're 2 months into it or 3 now, what is it like to rehearse virtually instead of being present, being at the stage? You know what I mean? What is that like?
Well, in the case of my show, we haven't really done any rehearsals per se. We put things on pause for about 2 months. We were in a pretty good shape development-wise in terms of the state of the show, and there didn't seem to be any point rushing the casting process when no one really knows what they're going to be doing, and emotionally people might not be in the right frame of mind to deal with the new material. So we're just in the next coming weeks we're going to finally turn around and reapproach casting and production. Oh, I should add, one way we're taking advantage of the extra free time before the October date rolls around is that we are doing a reading of the show, a presentation in some kind of approximation of a real performance. So we don't know if that's going to be people in a room. It might be people in a room with an audience or people in a room without an audience. And it might just be everybody over Zoom reading scripts and playing pre-recorded videos that the cast recorded. But we're going to take advantage of the extra time to essentially do a beta test of the show. So that's one way that's something we didn't have the opportunity to do under the original schedule because I was still finishing the show and we were going to jump right into rehearsals.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think that's wise because same as the show that I was doing with the Mother Trials, and we already had the actually I think it was two readings or two. It wasn't Zoom, but it was a virtual reading basically of the material. And actually, I am also grateful that well, not grateful, but I have a chance to look at the script, and I believe there's always improvements to make. Of course, we as writers and creators, we always think it could be better, and it could be even better, and so that will never end, right? But hey, we have a good excuse to tweak it and to fix anything or make it the best possible show. I think that this year, it will probably be the best year of Hollywood Fringe, and I hope that people will come to see us. They will come to support us because we need entertainers, and we need to be. It's just been so stressful, and we just need some distraction. Not distraction, but yeah, why not? Entertainment, distraction from our worries and the news and all of that. And so I think our shows are going to be better, I hope, than they used to be.
Well, I think that everyone who presents at the next Hollywood Fringe, whether it's in October or June of 2021, is going to be in a state of truly appreciating the opportunities to present material that we used to take for granted. But this, right. I think this was the 11th, 10th or 11th year, I forget, but the Hollywood Fringe has been now a couple of years behind it, and it felt like an uninterruptible institution. It just felt like something we could look forward to every year, like clockwork. June's rolling around, that's Fringe time, it's going to be a lot of fun. And when we return to that, I think we're going to treasure it more because we now have a sense of contrast. We have a sense of what can happen when we don't have that opportunity, and to hang out with each other at the Broadwater Plunge or wandering by a taco truck on Santa Monica Boulevard, all those rituals and fun things we did, we're gonna really appreciate it more than ever.
Yeah, I miss those days. I miss those days of the taco truck, and it's just for whoever hasn't experienced a Hollywood Fringe Festival, it is. I think it would have been the 11th year, if I'm not mistaken. And yeah, it's growing each time. I think last year was 400 shows. And it's growing even more. Unfortunately, we lost a venue, which is the Lounge Theater. I don't know what's going to happen, and we hope that Broadwater will have still Broadwater, because it's a great venue. They have 4 or 5 venues in the complex, along with the Plunge, which is, of course, where everybody can meet each other after the show or before the show or between shows. That's a great bar to hang out and to meet the people, the creators, and the people that are behind the curtain. So yeah, I hope that we don't lose any more, because that's really unfortunate. I was really saddened last week when I heard that.
I hadn't heard that news until just now.
Yeah, I'm sorry to tell you that. Yeah, we lost the Lounge Theater, and that was another great venue, because actually that was one of the venues I was looking to perform in. Not perform, but produce. And I think it was last week, the news came through that the owner was, decided, what better time to just I think he had it going for 15 years, and he was already thinking about it. Okay, would I do it another year? Should I continue? And with this pandemic, he decided to call it quits. And it's sad, but it's reality. It's, I can't blame them for what they did. It's uncertain. We don't know what's going to happen in October. We hope that it's all going to be. It's not going to be the same as before. We have the new normal term, which I despise, and so we'll see. We'll see what happens. But with everything that we're talking about, we want people to go to your website. I believe it's GideonMusical.com.
That's right, GideonMusical.com, just one word.
And on social media, do you have any way to have people, go and get updates as to what's going to happen and where is it going to happen?
Yeah, there are 3 places you can go for news and eventually production photos and all those other visual goodies. On Instagram, we are Gideon and the Blundersnorp. That's one long word, and since not everyone knows how to spell Blundersnorp, it's Instagram.
Sorry, Michael. Repeat that. We lost you once again. Can you repeat the spelling of Blundersnorp? Sorry.
Yep, it's spelled the way it sounds: BLUNDERSNORP.
So you can follow them on I think you said Instagram, and Facebook.
That's Instagram. Facebook and Twitter are a little different because why make anything easy when you can make it difficult. Let's see, for Twitter, I think we couldn't actually use that name because it was too long. Twitter, we are at Gideon Musical, so just like the website, Gideon Musical. And Facebook, I'm looking right now. You'd think I'd have it memorized. Facebook, it's actually Mad Bard Musicals, and that's just the way it sounds, and that covers all my musical theater enterprises, including The Bully Problem from last year. So it's kind of an omnibus Facebook page covering all that material.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So yeah, because no, that's probably the best way to follow the production and see what's going to happen and when is it going to happen and what they need to do to come support. So we'll see, right? Hopefully, Blundersnorp doesn't keep us from coming together. We have to defeat the monster. So I'm just sort of making references to your show and the virus.
I appreciate that. I might steal all your ideas. That's good promotional instinct right there.
Right. So I have a question for you because I'm just curious. What inspired this particular musical and the monster and the characters?
Sure. So as with The Bully Problem last year, there's a good idea that I'm trying to smuggle into audiences. So I embed the idea in a rambunctious adventure musical, kind of give it a entertainment trappings. But the notion behind it, the philosophy behind the show is that what defines you as a person is your character and your choices, and not your social status. So in the show, there's a stableboy who really wants to be a knight, but he believes that because he was born into the lowest social caste, the working class specifically, that he can never rise above his station. That's how he starts out the show. And in a mirror image of that, he eventually encounters a young noblewoman, a viscountess, who thinks that she is predestined one day to be queen. And she's a bit of a snot because she thinks she was born into a special place in the world. So both of them are opposite poles of the social spectrum, and they both believe in a kind of predestination. And during the course of the show, they both reconfigure their expectations for their future based on the adventures that they have. So by the end, they've both had revelations, and they've chosen destinies that they actually would prefer to the ones that they were born into. So in that sense, it's a anti-classist story. It's really trying to protest the idea of social classes as destiny. Now, of course, for a show that's supposed to entertain a 12-year-old, I'm never going to use any of those terms or words, but that's kind of my secret agenda in writing the whole thing.
Well, you never know. These 12-year-olds are very, sorry, go ahead.
Say that again?
No, I was just saying, you don't underestimate a 12-year-old. They can look it up on Google and figure everything out that you're saying.
Well, I hope people will extract the idea that's embedded in the story, but there isn't preaching. Nobody makes any real speeches except in comedic form. You know, the show is really meant to entertain and maybe inspire a little bit, but there's nobody on a soapbox.
Mm-hmm. Great. And the show is 1 hour long, if I'm not mistaken, right?
Yep. We last year we did a 90-minute show, and that was quite a challenge. So this year, although the show does have some interesting challenges of its own, such as a chase on horseback in the middle of it, we decided something that was an hour long was a kind of an ideal length for something like this.
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, it was a very entertaining 90 minutes. The Bully Problem was. I think it was, well, for being my first show and I was fully awake, it was great. But yeah, I could see the challenges on having a 90-minute show and trying to compact this into an hour show. So, and then especially if you have kids in the audience, but I think if it's entertaining and if it's lively and it's music along with it, I'm sure it won't feel like it's an hour or however long it's going to be, and especially with the Fringe Festival. They want us to be very very quick, compact entertainment. Yeah. So yeah, I think it's great.
I think by the time this is on its feet, it's going to have a certain momentum to it because it really doesn't have a lot of fat. It's been trimmed down to be a lean and mean kind of show, and every song has some purpose in the story. There aren't any numbers that are just throwaway comedic numbers. Everything in some way advances the plot or addresses the theme of the show.
Mm-hmm. Great. I'm looking forward to it. So once again, the show is called Gideon and the Blundersnorp. See, I'm having less of a problem saying it.
No, you got it. You finally got it.
Yeah, I'm gonna get it. by the time October comes, I'll be like, yeah, Blundersnorp. Who doesn't know Blundersnorp? Come on. But yeah, I have to keep reading it so I can memorize it. And so the actual word Blundersnorp, does that have any meaning, or is just a word that doesn't mean anything?
It's vaguely suggestive of blunderbuss, which is a kind of Renaissance era firearm that was very destructive and not very precise.
Oh.
And in the show, the monster is portrayed somewhat similarly as this rolling monstrous thing that knocks over trees and isn't really making surgical strikes. It's just sweeping its tail and causing havoc. So I think that was part of the inspiration of the term.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Yeah, that's a scary fact. It's always fun to know where the origin of the words come from. So yeah, and you have to be. By the end, you can have a poem called Blasphemia or Blasphemia, which is like those infomercials that you see on TV, and they have this Alexa or whatever names they come up with. So I was trying to come up with a word similar to those of the pharmaceutical companies. So I came with that because it was blasphemous. So that came to be Blasphemia. Anyhow, so there's always an origin story, right? Which is interesting to hear.
Well, in some cases, sometimes if I'm inventing a name or coming up with something specific, I will grab the first thing that comes into my head, no matter how silly, and say, this was my first impulse. This is what my soul wants, so I'm just going to roll with that. And I think when I've come up with sillier character names or ideas, it's usually been that kind of process where I didn't allow myself a chance to rough draft it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's interesting. Yeah. Because we're creative minds, so we can come up with new words and new terms, and eventually they go into the dictionaries of the world.
If we can help.
So where do you hope to take this besides the Fringe? I mean, do you do any other festivals besides Hollywood Fringe, or is it exclusively? Well, I think you're doing it in schools, right? I think is your goal as well.
What I like to say is I'm an aspiring non-producer. So my long-term dream is to never produce. And every time I produce something, or co-produce in this case, I regard it as a failure. So hopefully, after we've done our Fringe run, I can find a school or a theater company that addresses younger audiences that can take where I left off and mount another production. And at some point, I would like to go the publication route, because I think that's a great way to bring your work to audiences that you might not have had the opportunity to encounter in real life. The musical I wrote with Greg Crafts at this point a decade ago, Super Sidekick, the musical by Samuel French, and we got to see it produced by schools and TYA theater groups that we'd never heard of before, and we got to see interpretations of the show by strangers, and it's just a lovely experience, and it's kind of I think it's the noblest thing you can do for a show aimed at this kind of audience. It's to enable schools or youth groups around the world to have access to your material.
Mm-hmm. Right. Yeah, it would be great to. Yeah, I understand where you're coming from, because I had the same idea too with a show that I had about about the Oz. It was called the Oz Monologues, and it was about a Wizard of Oz characters. But yeah, I wish I probably will in the future, but right now we're just concentrating on one thing at a time. So let's just wait until Gideon comes out and see what happens, right? And then take it from there. So yeah, any other?
Turning the question.
Sorry, go ahead.
Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
That's okay.
Well, I was going to ask. I was going to turn the question back at you and ask, with respect to your own show, what are your hopes and plans for the Fringe that's coming up?
Okay. Well, my show it's going to be. I always say it was going to be, but it is going to be in the future. It's called The Mother Trials, and it's basically the story of an attorney who comes into court fight for his independence from his mother. So it's basically a trial between the mother and the son, and that's all I can say for now. But it's basically, it deals with different themes, like, for instance, it deals with enmeshment, it deals with emotional incest, it deals with very deep, very dark psychological warfare and all that. But it's not a comedy, although it sounds hilarious so far. But it's I try to make it as fun. And actually, I think you met my director. Yeah, I think you met him before, and he's wonderful. He's Matt Ritchie. He's basically directing me in the right direction. And even though that's not the direction I wanted the show to go, he always finds a way to change it again. And so it's been a challenge, but it's actually been a great, because now I am ended up with a totally different show that I had 3 or 4 months ago. So I think it's going to be a great collaboration. And yeah, it's not for kids, but yeah. And I hope that with the message that I'm trying to bring is that I'm trying to educate people that are probably going through the same issues that this character is going through. And so that's the point of the story. That's it. And then hopefully October comes around, and hopefully Michael and my production will come together in the festivals and, drink and be merry.
Yeah. That's, I think, something we all share in terms of having a hope for the next couple of months.
Right. Yeah. We'll see. Right. But again, I want to invite you to, and not only invite you, but also your cast members or other producers or whoever's involved in the show, to hopefully come back and tell me more about Gideon and the Blundersnorp and what they're going through. It's a difficult time, but I think we're going to go through it, come out the other end with a better show and a better. I think it's going to be even better than we had expected to be in June. Whether it's October, whether it's next year, we'll be back, right?
Well, what I like to say metaphorically is that, or maybe it's through analogy, every now and then California has an earthquake, and yet people continue to come here and live here and set up their lives here. And people, snarky people on the East Coast always say, why would you live in a part of the country that has earthquakes? And the answer is, living here, for those people who do, fulfills a fundamental need. There's a reason people come here, and yes, it's partly the weather and the landscape, but it's also the creative culture in the case of Los Angeles. And there's just a real need for that environment and what is done here in all the arts and the entertainment industry. So by analogy, there's a real need for theater in Los Angeles, and specifically, I think the Hollywood Fringe fulfills a very important role in allowing smaller productions or independent productions or crazy, impractical productions or experimental things that are too weird to be commercially mounted on a larger scale, to give all those shows an opportunity to reach an audience and to give the audiences an opportunity to access a lot of material all at once in a very accommodating and supportive environment. So there's a real need, and because of that, we're going to have the Hollywood Fringe at some point, whether it's October or next year. So I'm bullish in the long run.
Great. Well said. I couldn't have said it better. Well, once again, thank you, Michael, for calling in today. Look for Hollywood Fringe Festival. Follow hollywoodfringe.org. They have also Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, you name it. They're everywhere. So I want to put all the links below. And with that, I want to say you didn't see this coming, which is a cue to the song that I'm going to play right now. But once again, thank you, Michael, and have a wonderful evening.
Thanks for having me on this. Thanks for having me on the show.
You're welcome.
We are go for liftoff in T-minus 30.
Hit the record button.